Hey everyone, Richard here, and in this video today I'm going to talk about should you be buying your properties cash using your own funds, or should you be using a mortgage and leveraging your portfolio using interest-only mortgages to scale out. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Richard Norris. I've successfully built a multi-million pound property portfolio. I've been investing in property for over 10 years and my group of property companies does over 200k a month. So with that said, and without further ado, before we jump into the video itself and go through the granular details here and start to do some numbers and calculations using the whiteboard, if you're new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon as well so that you're notified of any new content that I bring out on a weekly basis. And then also as well, please make sure you hit that like button as well. It really helps the YouTube algorithm to bring more traffic my way so that more people can view my work and see my content, and I would really appreciate it. So with that said, and without further ado, let's jump in. So should you be buying your properties outright using cash? So in this video, I basically want to go through some working examples with you. Let's run a scenario about buying a property for cash and buying a property using leverage. And this is really going to help you make sense financially what is going to be the best option for you, whether you choose to go down the cash route or whether you choose to go down the leverage route. Now, when you're investing in property and you're using cash or you're using leverage and using interest-only mortgages, there are naturally pros and cons to both. I don't want to go through the granular details of the pros and cons in this video today. I really want to go through the financial numbers because, in my opinion, first and foremost, the numbers tell me what I need to know. As an investor, as a property investor, the number one thing that I want to know is how hard is my money working and what is the property making me every year? Therefore, what returns am I getting on the cash that I'm investing, and how soon do I break even on my investment? That is the biggest thing that's most important to me as an investor, because when I put my cash into a deal, the number one thing that I need to think about is as soon as the property has paid me back my initial investment, at that point there literally is no risk in the deal because I've already got back from the property what it owes me in my investment. So with that said, let's go in and take a look. So in this example today, I'm going to run the model using a cash investment of 200k, and then I'm going to say, well, if we were to use the same 200k and actually buy, say, 4 properties with the 200k, not just one, and use leverage and interest-only mortgages, what does that look like? And we're going to run a comparison and let's see what the financial data says. So the first example I'm going to do then is let's say that we're buying the property for cash, okay? So buying the property for cash, and we have 200k, as I said, to invest, okay? So we have a 200k cash investment, right? So let's say that if you just use the 200k, what you're going to do is you're going to buy your first property with the 200k, okay? So property 1 with 200k, and you're going to buy it outright cash. Now, I know that if you're buying a property for 200k in value, you've got legal fees, you've got valuation fees, and you've got stamp duty to pay. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to go as granular as that at that level. Now, for those of you who know me and are used to my YouTube channel, or if you're a client of mine and you've worked with me, you will know that I like to go very granular with everything that I do and cover every single cost metric to the penny. But for the purpose of this video and to make the point of financial literacy and to help you understand it in the most simplest concept possible, I've decided that for this video it does make sense to go at a higher level. So for this property, we're going to say we bought 200k. We're not going to assume that we have any stamp duty, and we're going to assume that we have no legal fees and other associated fees to pay, because even if you put those in, the same financial patterns will be equal if I include those or not, if that makes sense. So we'll go with 200k. That's what we're buying the property for. And the first thing we're going to say is from this 200k property, it rents out. The rent that we get on this property is £12,000 a year. Okay, so we rent it out for £12,000 a year, which is £1,000 a month. And the fees that we pay on the property, so I'm going to put fees here, we're going to assume that there are no fees, right? So no fees. And the reason that I'm assuming no fees is because I'm saying, hey, there's no mortgage on the property. Yes, we may have a management fee that we pay to our letting agent who looks after it for us, and we may have some maintenance and wear and tear and builders and contents insurance. But as I just stipulated, I'm just going to keep everything from a high level now. So I'm just going to assume no fees so that when we compare the leverage at 4 properties, we get a like-for-like comparable and it's much easier to digest, okay? So no fees. And then the other thing that we need to look at is when I'm making my decisions in property, I never make my decisions on just year one and just today. I'm looking at the compounding effect. I'm looking at the long-term appreciation of my portfolio, because as an investor, if I can make sense of the 5-year, the 10-year calculations, then I'm much clearer on making sense of, is this investment going to be profitable, not just today, but well into the future. And when you do this properly, you'll see that the gain in year 1 is a lot less than the gain at year 10, and therefore it doesn't make sense to just focus on year one, because then you're going to miss out on your investment if you were to hold it for that period of time. Because if you're like me and you're investing in property, my goal is to hold my assets for as long as possible and never sell them, because I'm going to benefit from capital appreciation and I'm going to be getting paid every single year. And also, if I put debt against the property in the form of an interest-only mortgage, my debt is going to be eroded by inflation as well, so I can win on every level. So that's the most important thing that I want you to take away from this video as well today, is don't just look at year one, look at the 5 and 10 year cycle as well. Every decision that you make, you need to think about the second, third and fourth order consequences, because when you think like that and you compound your decision making processes in that way using money, you're going to see how you can get very wealthy. Okay, so if we look at this property and say, right, I want to know now, assuming if I buy this property for 200k, I want to know what this property is going to be worth in 5 years. Okay, so in 5 years, at year 5, okay, how much is this property gonna appreciate in value? And I'm gonna assume, just for the example that we're using here, that this property is going up by 6%. So I'm gonna put 6% up here every single year. Okay, so if I take my calculator here now and I do 200,000 and I times that by 1.06, which is 6% of capital growth, in year one, I make an appreciation of 12,000 and the property is worth 212,000. If I do that 5 times compounded every year, the property price goes up by 6%. So year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, I end up with a sum. I don't know if you can see that because of the sunlight, but anyway, it says £267,645. So that's what the property is worth, 267,645. Okay. Sorry, it's not that clear, but that says 267,645. Okay, so and how I done that, just so you know, if you're following this video and you've got your calculator out, take the 200,000 times it by 1.06 on your calculator, hit equals, and then click in equals 5 times, and you'll end up to the point where you end up at year 5 with a sum of 267,645 as the property value. Okay, so then we need to work out, like, what is the appreciation in this example? So how much has the asset gone up by in that time? Well, the appreciation is your 267,645 minus the £200,000, which gives you a total of £67,645 of capital appreciation, of cash that you've made on the way up. Okay, by holding the asset for 5 years. Then over that 5-year period, we want to say, what is our rental profit? So we take the 12,000, which is what we're renting out the property for, and we times that by 5, which means that the rental income we've received from this property over 5 years is 60,000. And remember, we're assuming no fees. We don't have a mortgage because we bought it cash, but we're assuming that we don't have any letting agent fees in this example, and we don't have any other bills and nuances associated with the property, okay, for the purposes of this example. So therefore, what I need to look at now is, what is my total return? How much cash have I actually made in this investment over the 5 years by buying this one property with 200k of cash, right? So what we do is we take the £60,000 of rental income that we've received over the 5-year period, that's our net rent, and we plus the 67,645 in capital appreciation. And if we add those two numbers together, 60,000 plus 67,645 is 127,645. Okay, that's the total return that we've made from our 200k investment over a 5-year property by buying this property for cash. Now, then what we need to work out is, what is our total return on investment? And this is what I'm looking at. As an investor, this tells me, okay, I make £127,000 of cash, but how hard has my money actually worked over that 5-year period? And the way that you work that out is you take your £127,645 return, you divide that by £200,000, which is the investment that you put in on day one, and then you times that by 100 to get it into a percentage, and you'll see that your total return on investment is 63.8% over a 5-year period, right? Pretty good. So pretty good investment. Bought the property for 200k, appreciated over 5 years. I made 12,000 a year in rent, which is 60,000 over 5 years. The property went up 67,645 pounds over the 5-year period, and I made a total return therefore of 63.8%. Cool. So let's move on and say, well, if we do the same example using the same numbers, but this time with our 200k of cash, we choose to leverage it out and buy properties on interest-only mortgages. What does that look like? So the sum here that we're going to do now is leverage. Okay, so I'm going to put leverage as the title. Okay, and again, we still have the same 200k of cash to invest, but this time we buy not one property, we buy 4 properties and we put down a 50k deposit on each property and take out an interest-only mortgage for 150,000 on each property. So what I'm going to do here is we buy property 1, we buy property 2, we buy property 3, and we buy property 4, okay, using the 200k. And each property has 50k deposit in, okay? Each property has 50k of our money in the property. And the total mortgages that we take out across all 4 properties is 150k on each one. Okay, times that by 4, you end up with 600k in mortgages. And if we times these 4 properties by 4, 200 each, we end up with property value of 800k. 800 minus the 600 gives you your 200k of equity. Okay, so we've brought 4 properties using the 200k now. Now, the next thing that we do then is we say, okay, that's great. What is the rental income across these? Well, again, remember in the first example, using the same numbers, we bought these properties for 200k. They rent out for £12,000 a year each. So if we take the £12,000 a year, okay, what they rent out for, and we times that by 4, because we've got 4 units now, we end up with £48,000. I'll just put 48k here. £48,000 a year in rental income. Now, in this example, we have our interest-only mortgage to deduct from our rent, right? So what we do is we say, okay, well, if we've got 150k mortgage on each property, how much are we paying every year in interest on taking out that debt? So what we do is, for the purpose of this video, and then at the time of the recording, being November 2022, interest rates are around 5-ish% for a buy-to-let property if you're buying in a limited company. So I'm going to take the 150,000 and I'm going to times that by 5%, okay, which gives me £7,500 a year in interest that I pay on each property. So 7,500 I pay on each property, and if I times that by 4, I end up with £30,000 of interest that I pay to the mortgage companies for lending 150,000, which is 600 across the 4 properties. Okay, so then what is my net rent? Okay, so my net rent therefore is my 48,000 minus my 30,000 gives me £18,000 a year in net income, assuming that we only have the mortgage to pay. Again, not assuming any letting agent fees or making any allowance for your monthly operating expenses, which I'd usually allow at 10% of gross rental income. But again, for the purpose of this video, we're not going to include that. Okay, so 48k minus the 30k gives you £18,000 a year in net rent, okay, net profit effectively. Now, the next thing we need to do is you say, well, what is the appreciation, okay, of these assets over a 5-year period, okay? And then we can look at the rental income over the 5-year period as well. But if we say that we've got 4 properties that are worth 800,000, okay? And we say, what do those properties go up to over a 5-year period? What we're going to do is we're going to take 800,000 and we're going to times that again by 6%, okay? 6%, I think I said 5 a minute ago, but we're going to go with 6. 6 was what we used in the first example. It goes up by 6% a year. In year 1, the 800,000 will become 800,000 times 1.06 becomes 848,000 across the portfolio. Now, if I do that 5 times, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I end up with a property portfolio that is now worth, at year 5, and I'm going to put it up here, is now worth £1,070,580. Okay, £580. That's what that portfolio is worth. We bought the properties for 200k each, 800k in year 1, and at year 5 they've gone up to £1,070,580. Now, if we work out what the appreciation is of the assets, is we take the £1,070,580 and we minus off the value of the properties of day 1, which is 800,000. Remember, 200 each. We have an appreciation of £270,580 across that 5-year period. Okay. Now, what we need to work out is what is our net profit on rents, okay, over that 5-year period. And remember, we've worked out here that we're getting 18,000 a year from it. We take the 18,000 and we times that by 5. We end up with £90,000 in rent over the 5-year period. Okay, so if we add these two numbers together, the appreciation of £270,580 over the 5-year period, plus the net rent of £90,000, we end up with a total return, TR is total return, of £360,000, okay, £580, which is the 270,580 plus the 90,000 gives you 360,580 pounds over that 5-year period is what the 200k has made you. So your total return on investment in this scenario is, you take the 365,580 and you divide that by 200,000 and you times that by 100. You end up with a return here, 180% total return. So in this scenario, we're making 180% on the 200k over a 5-year period. And in the previous example where we buy using cash, we only make a 63% return. So give or take, we're making just under 120% extra in scenario 2 by using leverage as our best way and financial method to acquire the properties and grow the portfolio. Now, the great thing about this example in example 2 is what we can then do is say, well, if we leverage up again at 75% against the million and the new mortgage on that property becomes, let's do that. So we have this £1,070,580 portfolio, okay? And we leverage this up now at 75% loan to value, because that's typically the loan to value that you work towards as a property investor. You can go lower, you can go higher, but 75 is a typical example. Then your new mortgage on that at year 5, when you come to refinance it to scale the portfolio again, would be £1,070,580 times 75% is 802,935. And remember, the mortgages that you have on day 1 that haven't changed was 600,000, 150k across the 4, remember, was 600k up here. So if we take the 802,935 and we pay back the 600,000 to do an equity release, we end up taking out, in this example, a sum of £202,933 to then go and buy another 4 properties. So we've now grown the portfolio to 8 properties, okay, over that 5-year period, where in year 1 we've only grown the portfolio from 1 property, and at year 5 we're only able to pull out probably not that much money if we had to leverage against it. Sorry, if we were to leverage against it, we could take the cash out, but obviously in this example we're not leveraging against it. We're saying we're just solely buying cash. You've got 1 property that's worth 267,000, making you 12,000 a year. In the example number 2, over that 5-year period, over the same 5-year period but using the 200 in a different way and leveraging out, you've now got 8 properties. And already, without doing the new property calculations, you're making a total return of 18,000 a year. So if you did that again, you'd have 8 properties making 36,000 a year, as opposed to 1 property making you 12,000 a year. So I hope that helps you to make sense of the calculations between buying cash and whether you should buy properties for cash outright, or whether you think it's better now to leverage and use debt, and good debt, because good debt is debt that makes you money, via the form of interest-only mortgages against assets to grow the portfolio, okay? So let me know what you do in the comment section below. Let me know whether you're thinking of buying cash, if you would still buy cash after watching this video, or you're going to leverage and buy your property portfolio on interest-only mortgages. Or equally, if you've already started and you're an existing investor, let me know how you're growing your portfolio. Let me know what loan to values you're working at. Let me know if you're buying cash or leverage. I'd love to hear about it. So if you like this video, please go ahead, click the like button. I really appreciate it. Again, it really helps the YouTube algorithm and the gods to bring me more traffic, and it helps get my work out there and people see my content. So I'd really appreciate it if you did like the video and you got some value from it. Equally, if you didn't like the video and didn't get any value, I love you anyway, it's all good, but hopefully you did. And then if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you can be notified of any new content that I bring out on a weekly basis. You've been great. I'll see you in the next one.